Okay, if we can go ahead and get started, just to talk a little bit. Like I said, we've gone with the speaker system, so I'm not yelling at you for half an hour like I did last year. So just I'm going to speak a little bit about the program in general, and then really take some questions generally about really anything that you have questions about. Then we'll break into groups with your group coaches, and they'll talk a little bit, and then we'll meet. We'll go over across the courtyard to the cafeteria, where we've got parents there. They're going to talk about volunteer sessions and those sorts of things, and then we'll break up again for you guys to be able to talk about. We have 3 different presentations ready. Coach Rob and Coach Marie are going to talk with new members. If you have any new member questions, and to kind of get oriented to the thousands of pieces of information we're throwing out all the time. Then Jeremy is going to speak about Team Unify, which is our website and our database that we use. That's how we enter meets. We sign up for sessions. That's where you're billed from, those sorts of things. And so to try to make it a little bit easier for you guys to navigate, he's going to talk about that. And then I'm going to talk about kind of the parenting 101 as far as watching swim meets and watching your swimmers swim, things to look for, things to watch out for, those sorts of things. And so we'll kind of break into groups and talk about that a little bit. So welcome. A lot of you guys I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, also some new faces, so that's great. New Trier has a long history of great swimming, and we have come back this year over the last couple years and really made some changes to get ourselves back to that top level that we were probably about 10 years ago or so. And so as we move and improve, there's going to be a lot of changes, and so I ask for your patience and your understanding, and also questions when we do make changes, and we have some things when we adjust our structure a little bit as we grow and as we get better. That's one of the main things that you'll see this year. We saw it last year. We'll see it again probably next year. Is we keep adjusting the training groups a little bit, and that is a positive. It's because we are improving. It's because we are getting better as a whole. For those who were here maybe 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we had a group structure that, as a person who's very familiar with swimming and group structures, was extremely confusing. And so you couldn't really tell where you were going from. If I was in D7, I could go to A8, I could go to A9, I could go to A10. If I was in A10, I could go to junior, I could go to junior advanced. But we had all these crisscrossing lines. If you followed an athlete's career through NTA, there were all these crisscrossing lines, and it was hard to really kind of feel where you were heading and what you were doing. What it also made difficult from a coaching perspective was to make sure that my group was building on the previous group, and that I was preparing kids for the next group. If I had no idea, if I had 20 kids in my group and they were going in 3 different directions after they left my group, it was really hard as a coach to prepare those athletes for that next group. And so by streamlining things and making it a little bit easier to understand and a little bit more linear, we've been able to not only get better results, but also have a better trajectory over the course of a swimmer's career. So now you'll see we have Bronze 1, and I'll just go through a brief description of all of our groups to give you an idea of how we work things and how we advance through the program. Our Bronze 1 group is basically for kids who can swim freestyle and backstroke, and if they can approximate a breaststroke, that's great. If it looks kind of like butterfly, that's great also, but they really just need to know freestyle and backstroke, and we kind of handle the rest. and they'd have to be water safe. And so that's a lot of you who did a tryout. We had the kids tread water for a minute. That's again to help them if they are, just to make sure that they are safe, while they're in the water and while we're at practices. Especially if you look at most of our pools have a deep end that we're working with. So that's our Bronze 1. Our Bronze 2 group, those are for kids that know all 4 strokes, and they have a good grasp on all 4 strokes. Pretty good with a flip turn, can kind of handle the basics of a competitive stroke, and that workout or that practice goes from 45 minutes in Bronze 1 to an hour in Bronze 2. And so we add a little bit of time as the kids grow and mature. We go to Silver 1, and Silver 1 is again mostly an instructional group where we are becoming more efficient in all 4 strokes, better turns, tighter streamlines, also learning how to practice. How to go 5 seconds apart, how to, all of our bronze kids know how to circle swim, but learning how to work out in addition to just the general perfecting of strokes. Our Silver 2, all we're doing is really adding distance then to those strokes. It's still a very instructional group where it's a lot of drills, a lot of technique, but now if I have a perfect technique in freestyle for a 25, now can I have perfect technique for a 50? Can I hold that technique for a 75? Can I do that over a longer period of time, which we're going to be asking them to do in a race and those sorts of things. Moving to Gold 1, okay, we go right from Silver 2 to Gold 1. That is, again, a transitional group. We are not only doing a lot of instruction and a lot of drills. Every day we'll have a drill focus, but now we're starting to add a little bit more physical challenge. And so our Gold 1 group will have 2 to 3 days a week where there is a challenge set. And again, it could be hundreds on a certain cycle, it could be 50s, but now we're starting to address some of the training issues as far as being, building up their aerobic capacities, those sorts of things. So those things are important. Gold 2 is a continuation of that. A lot of technique work, but now a lot more challenge. We're asking kids to compete. We're asking kids to compete in practice, those sorts of things, and kind of getting a more competitive feel to it. And then Gold 3 is our top age group program, where we have most of our 11 and 12s and a lot of our 13, 14s. And that becomes that's where we really start to develop our aerobic abilities, because that's an important part of training. That's an important part of what we're trying to do in the long-term development of athletes, is to develop their aerobic capacities. The technique part still matters, and it matters all the way through. I have our top group. We do drills every day, so that's part of it. But these drills now may be more competitive oriented, so it may be number of strokes it takes you to get to the other end. Counting strokes, making sure you're maintaining efficiency, counting the number of kicks you're taking off the wall, those sorts of things. It may not be a specific drill. It may be swimming while you're thinking of certain techniques and certain things that you need to do. And then we go to our Senior 1 group, and our Senior 1 group is still, it's probably a little bit more technique based still, but that is where we get into, that's mostly our high school kids. They get into a typical high school training program. Our Senior 2 has our top level 13, 14s, as well as our high school athletes. And that's our second highest group. And again, they are really training for developing into those higher level athletes as far as regional qualifiers, state qualifiers, sectional qualifiers, those sorts of things. And so they're working towards those things, really working towards the 400 IM, working towards the 500 free, those events, because you can go anywhere from there. You can go anywhere from there. So really with a focus again on higher level techniques. And then our last group is our Senior 3 group, and that is our top group, our top training group. Most of those kids have above state cuts, usually either sectional cuts or junior national qualifying times, and they train really at the highest level that we can. So that's, as you can see, every group adds on the other one, and so there's no one offshooting off to the side to do something different, where each group builds on what the last group did. And if you look at our practice schedule, the amount of time we're in the water builds as you go through the schedule. You know, our top senior group is practicing or is in the water roughly 13 or 14 hours a week, plus dry land and those sorts of things, all the way from the hour and a half in the water for our bronze one. And so we go kind of that hour and a half to 14 hours over the course of their career through NTA. So you know, it is planned out, not only on a day-to-day basis, but really over the course of your time here. So with that, we've had that in place over the last year, and we've had a tremendous amount of success with that. 2 years ago, we were in the age group division at the state level. We were 20th place, I believe, 20th place. This last year, we were 11th. And so just in a year, we've been able to move up and become more competitive and do those sorts of things that we need to do as we come through. And really the age group side of things is where, you know, we're developing. And because those kids will develop into state level athletes, national level athletes, hopefully international level athletes as we go through. So other than that, we have a lot of things going on at the club, and you guys have seen it if you read the newsletters. And if you're not getting the newsletters, please email me and make sure that we send it out every Thursday. So if you're not getting a newsletter, check your spam, because it does go through Constant Contact, which, you know, some spam filters do weed that out. But if you're not, please let me know, and we'll get you on our list. Because it's a third-party provider for our email system. We have to transfer email addresses over from Team Unify to that system, and so it's not unheard of for us to miss a name here or there. So, or if you have, you know, if we have on your account your email, but you want your husband or wife or spouse to get that email as well, just email us and we can add them to the list for email purposes. So we also have, one of the things I want to highlight, we are trying to make sure that we are adding to the community as we go through. And so one of those ways, we do fundraisers from time to time. The Hour of Power, which we do usually in the spring, is a fundraiser for a. I keep drawing a blank on the. Yes, I was trying to use the official name, but brain cancer is probably as close as we'll get. But it is a former athlete with Nutrier, passed away. His parents developed this fund. It's been a great event. It's actually turned nationwide with thousands and thousands of athletes around the country participating. It's a relay for an hour. And so we try to mix up our older kids and our younger kids. They come in and they do various relays. Whoever the MC is, you know, announces we're switching to butterfly, or switching to backstroke, or we're switching to corkscrew, you know, whatever it is, and they basically do relays with each other for an hour. So, but that is a great cause. Obviously, it touches our program specifically, and it's something that's been important to us over the years. We also have the Samantha Cerrone Angel Fund, which is something that is not really widely known because we don't do any specific fundraisers for it. It is a fund that has been set up as a team. We donate to it every year, and we put in money, and then there are also donors that have put together money and donate each year. But it is something that we are going to try to use a little bit more, as well as promote a little bit more from our membership. This is a fund that goes to aid athletes in travel in the cost of being on a team. It doesn't necessarily go to offset any dues or anything like that. But if there are, we've had athletes in the past that have qualified for national events, but it is, thousands of dollars to attend a meet in California or Florida. These funds help that, if an athlete's unable to pay those funds. It also, because it hasn't been used as much as we'd like, and we're trying to promote that a little bit more this year, it can be used even at a state meet. Unfortunately, the state of pools in Illinois require us to have many of our state championships in Indiana, or Wisconsin. And so obviously, a state championship, 3 days, 4 days long, there's obviously travel expenses that are involved in that as well. And so this fund will go to help those who need that assistance in being on a team. We've also used it, the cost of suits and those sorts of things. So like I said, we do not use it for any sort of dues, but we do use it to help offset the cost of being on a team once you're there. So I think that's been very important for us. So like I said, a lot of our information we're going to discuss later on, but I want to open the floor to any types of questions that people have just in general. If you don't want to wait for the later one and you just want to ask me, I will say it, and then I will qualify it by saying if your coach or one of the board members says something different, probably go with them because I'm going by my memory. So anybody have any questions? Yes?
Any update on the build out of the pool?
Update on our pool projects. I will give you an update, but I will use this qualifier. I've been a part of a few pool projects, and they are awesome until you ask someone to sign a check. And so what we've done and where we're at, we have zero money for right now. So we have a lot of people that are interested in those sorts of things. So that is a giant qualifier. But we are making progress. The school has been shockingly super on board with the project in setting aside funds and contributing to a lot of the exploratory things that we're doing. We have had a consultant come in, and there are two companies in the country that do pool consulting, and they come in and do demographic data, do feasibility studies, those sorts of things. And they've come in and done basically a month-long project, and they're still in the midst of doing some of the planning for us. But one of the reasons I chose them was in a pool project I was involved with previously, many years ago. They told us that we didn't need a 50-meter pool. And as a coach, I really wanted a 50-meter pool. And so, but I appreciated their honesty, so we brought them in for this project because I wanted them to tell me, if there are too many pools or anything like that. They came back saying that we absolutely need a 50-meter pool. We probably need a little bit more than that. And so they were very positive on the feasibility of the project. And so I think that was great for us. They've done some initial cost estimates, those sorts of things. So as of right now, we are working with architects and construction companies to get final bids and final projections as far as and even initial drawings of what it would look like and where it would be. For those, just the current proposal will be here, and if you just pretend that wall over there is not there, it will go from that wall out towards the Steppen building or out towards that frontage road there. And so it'll go 50, probably by the time it's all said and done would be, 80 meters that way. So, and so basically it would fit between the football fields and the current building right now. So again, all of that is super positive. We're very excited about it. But no one's written a check and no one's bought a shovel yet. So again, that's the big caveat. But we are making progress, and it is an exciting time for us. Any other questions? Yeah.
I haven't looked in the last week, but schedules, practice schedules, are they up out yet
Yeah,
for October?
yeah, they are up. They are up.
Or just October or for several months?
Practice schedules through November 19th are on the website. If you just go to the schedules page, you'll be able to check that out.
Yeah.
Have to ask OLPH, has anything been updated?
We are allowed back in. We kind of took a hiatus because they were closed and they were working on the roof. We have a consultant coming in there from what is the company? It's the evacuator is Paddock Pools. Paddock Pools they do kind of retrofit air quality stuff, and so they are coming in to hopefully help us design something. Again, we are fairly limited on what the school will let us do. And that's part of the reason why the timeline's been as long as it has, as we've been trying to figure out what they will let us change and what they won't let us change. But we do have someone coming in who's going to just give us, tell us what the system is. And for those, if you look at evacuator systems online, they are fairly easy. So it's not a huge retrofit project. It is. Basically, it looks like a bench. It actually has a padded seat, so it is a bench with all the added air circulating sorts of devices underneath it. So that's what we're hoping to do. I just don't have a timeline.
Do you feel like OLPH will be open to that?
They are open to it. The issue that we've had right now with them is just getting information. The pool is so old. The Paddock company. That's why we've actually asked them to come out, because I don't know what I'm looking at when it comes to air quality systems, and the school doesn't know what they have. That pool was built probably 30 years before the maintenance people were even born. So I think that's kind of it's been hard to get information back and forth. So it has not been an issue that they don't want to do it. It's just they're asking me, what is the air pressure coming off of the air handling unit, and no one seems to know that, or what is it rated for, and to be perfectly honest, that air handling unit is probably 40 to 50 years old as well. So, but it has been better. We have adjusted our groups. We used to stack 3 groups in there back to back, and we're no longer doing that every day. We're trying to mix that up a little bit. So we are going to be finishing a little bit earlier, because it seemed to be those later groups were the groups that had the most problems. And you've seen we have that big yellow fan that we're trying to use to kind of bolster that. That would be basically what the Paddock system does, except it's a little bit quieter. So.
What's the issue to begin with? Is it too hot? Or?
It is, no, the issue is really that the pool is not made for what we're using it for. The pool is made as an instructional pool. The pool is made for 10 or 15 people to splash around for an hour and go back to their classes. And so when we pile 40 kids in there that are actually working and actually doing some stuff, we're really stirring up water and creating more air issues than they're really ready to handle. And so we've added fans, and those sorts of things have helped, because really the goal that you're trying to achieve is to get airflow to go over the surface of the pool, to clear all that stuff out. And so like a pool like this that sits down underneath the pool deck, chloramines and chlorine air kind of settles there. But fortunately here we've got a huge high ceiling. We've got air blowing across the pool deck that helps clear that out fairly quickly. OLPH with its low ceiling, fairly small, makes that a little bit more difficult. And like I said, we've tried to mitigate it ourselves, and we've had a certain degree of success, but we are looking to have it done a little bit better.
You brought in a new dryland provider to
Yes.
do the programming. How do you feel like that's working?
I've been very pleased with it. I think that one of the things that has helped us in general has been to have someone who is looking at our dryland program the way we look at swimming. And to be perfectly honest, none of us as coaches are dryland experts. We have a very clear idea of what we want to accomplish in dryland. But if it was up to me to design dryland, we would do the same 12 exercises for 8 months. And, and I would really like those exercises and we would be experts at them. But having someone come in and really think about, these are exercises that do the same thing, we'll switch it up, get the kids more engaged, and try to do a better job of working the areas that we need to work. One of the areas, and I'll talk a little bit about dryland, why it's so important. Dryland at the younger ages is important just simply because it helps the kids socialize and get together and talk because their head's not underwater the whole time. Makes it a little bit more fun for them, lets them get to know their teammates. Also kind of gets them in a rhythm of this is what you're going to be doing later on. So at the younger age groups, some of it is just because in gym classes, not a lot of gyms going on anymore, or PE or KW, whatever, depending on the school that I'm working with. But a lot of them are not doing some of the exercises or a lot of the exercises that we would typically rely on as a swimming team. But one of the areas that they found, and for those who've heard me talk a few times about this, I think it'd be old hat for you, but one of the things that they found was how important that core strength is in swimming. And when I say core strength, I say basically the muscles from here down to a little above your knee, front and back. And so that core strength is almost everything in swimming. Core strength and kicking are the two things. If you can become good in the core and have a good kick, you're going to be a good swimmer. Those are the two things, and those are the two things that we really focus on at the younger age groups, because we are a sport that has no dry land to push off of. Every other sport, if you're playing baseball, I'm pushing off the ground. If I'm playing football, I'm pushing off the ground. If I'm playing golf, it's all about shifting your weight and pushing on the ground. We don't have that. And so our ground, or our base, is our core strength and our kick. Okay, so that's what creates everything that we do in the water. And so it is super important that we develop that strength outside of the water. Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do in the water that will do that other than actually using the skills and the muscles you've developed. But that core strength is developed in dryland extremely fast and extremely well. And that's what this company does, is they've really studied the sport. The people who work with us actually got themselves certified as swim coaches, even though they don't have a swimming background, so that they could learn, the mechanics behind it and make sure that they were doing the things that they want to do. And just a brief, as a reference, back in the early 2000s, there were things called the suit wars, where USA Swimming allowed everybody to have full body suits. So you would see, if you look at the old pictures, there are a lot of Olympians that have the leg suits down to their ankles, all the way up. Some of the athletes had sleeves, and so during that time, almost every world record was broken, just in that brief 4-year period, and just our times went from being up here to down here to where it was almost unrecognizable. And so and it was during that time of the suits. What they thought, and what we all thought when we did the suits, was the suits had a silicone covering on them so you could slide through the water. And so everyone was like, oh, okay, that's what it is. It's so much better because you can slide through the water. What they later found, what it had nothing to do with the sheen on the suits, had everything to do with the suits were made basically with a built-in corset that created the right body line, created, no matter how weak you were in the core, you stuffed yourself in one of those suits, you couldn't breathe for very long, but you could swim fast. And so they found that, and if you look at back in that day, that time period, Michael Phelps never wore one. He wore a leg suit down to his ankles, but he never wore like the full body suit because he was already very strong in the core. He had a very dedicated dryland program that he worked with. He didn't need the suit, whereas other athletes were dropping, 5, 10, 12 seconds in their 400 free just by putting themselves in a suit. And so, so getting back to that, that's one of the things when we worked with USA Swimming after that period, it was all about dryland, building core strength, making sure that the kids are strong, making sure that the kids have a good base to pull from and to kick from. And so I know it's a long way around to answer your question, but I think that is what they've done very well, is they've gotten away from, especially I have high school boys right now. If you ask a high school boy, they just want to go in there and do bench press and some arm curls and be done so that they look good at the beach. Okay, but to really force them and get them to buy into doing core exercises and making sure that they're strong, from the middle out, I think has been important, and that's one of the things that that Achieve has done very well. Any other questions? Are you afraid I'll go on for a super long time? Yes.
Are there upper age limits to the groups as well?
Good question. We do not typically put kids in groups based on age. So it is, I won't say it's purely ability based because there is also a social aspect to it. So if I have an 11-year-old who has never swam before, we may try to put them in a group that is more age appropriate, whereas they may be in bronze 1 or 2 by ability level, but they're not going to enjoy themselves with a bunch of 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. And so that's part of the reason we have the Blue Sharks. We've added, if you look at our website, we have a 2-day-a-week Blue Sharks group that is for our older kids who maybe from an ability level haven't swam in a few years. Some of them haven't swam ever, but they want to be able to learn and get ready to swim in high school. And so this is a chance for them to learn, even though they know all 4 strokes. They may not have ever been on a team, so they don't know how to read the clock or how to go 5 seconds apart or how to do those sorts of things. But it allows them to be in that group in a more age-appropriate environment, so they're not stuck with that. So we do use age a bit, but for the most part, we really have a set of skills and a set of things that we're trying to get out of each group, and once they're ready to move on, we'll do that. So. But actually, as a jumping off point, see, I told you I would go on for. But as a jumping off point, one of the things that a lot of times we talk about is people wanting to move up early. My son's the best person in this group, my daughter's the best person in this group, and they need to move up. And again, most of the time, or a lot of the times, that is true. But when we're doing this, a lot of times we're also looking at their pace through the program. And what I mean by that is, there are probably 11 and 12-year-olds who could move up and be in the senior 2 group. No one right now, but there have been 11 and 12-year-olds who would qualify to be in the senior 3 group. But that would mean that they would be in that same group for 5 years. For 4 years. And so sometimes we're trying to pace them out to make sure that they're not, in turn stuck in a group. So if we move them up a year early, that may be an extra year that they're just stuck in that group. And so we do try to look at it, and so that's where age also comes in. How long are they, if we continue at this pace, how long are they going to be stuck in a certain group? And so again, when we're making those decisions, it is a fairly, a lot of times it is looking at the times and looking at qualifying times, looking at training, can they handle this sort of stuff? But then sometimes it is looking at the larger picture of, if we make this decision this season, where does that put us next season or 3 seasons from now? Yes.
Your private swim lessons, are they open to non-team members?
Our private lessons are open to non-team members now. Years ago, that was not the case because for insurance purposes, but we purchased additional insurance to make sure that we could do that. It helps cover our group lessons as well. Our group lessons have been great. Right now, they're just on Sunday. We're looking to expand, but we had 77 kids involved in lessons this time around on Sundays through our group program. And then our private lessons are open then Sunday afternoon and some Saturdays when we don't have meets. So
And can they be more than, can they be 3 in a group?
there can be 3 in a group.
Okay, I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah, and I will say that you can do that. It's basically a semi-private lesson, and I'll have to check how we do that from a Jeremy's our setup
There's
person.
When you register for a private lesson, there's a little question that says, would you like to turn this into a semi-private lesson?
Okay.
And you just hit yes, it'll charge you some extra money. And then if you just follow up with the coach that you scheduled with to let them know that more than one person is going to be coming and who they are, that's how you handle it.
Okay.
Yeah. I will say the only caveat I have to that is it is better if they are somewhat similar.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Okay, I think that's
Similar.
okay. And again, we've had people sign up for semi-private lessons in the past that had, someone who was just doing 10 bobs and someone who wanted to learn butterfly all at the same time, and that was, not fair to the coach or anybody else. So, so good. Yeah.
How do you know that you need a private lesson?
That's a good question. I don't think that I'm going to take a step back. I have mixed feelings about private lessons. Just for me as a coach, in that I feel like anything that you should learn on the team, we should be able to handle during practice. And so, so if you feel like maybe you're behind, your child's behind, or maybe they learn, there's a certain skill that they may learn better in a one-on-one situation, then that may be an idea for private lessons. However, if there is a certain skill maybe that you're concerned about, or something that you think needs to be worked on, I would contact that coach, your group coach first, and say, hey, I noticed that my son or daughter is behind in this certain skill. Is that okay? Is there something we should do? Kind of similarly to maybe what you would do in school. Do I need to get a math tutor because they're falling behind and maybe they're not getting something as quickly as they would on a one-on-one basis? But I do not want anyone to feel like to learn a certain skill you have to do private lessons. That's not how we operate.
Follow up.
Mhm.
First time.
Sure.
Just joined the team. How do you know if you are learning you need to learn a certain skills? Like how frequently do you need to ask for feedback?
I think honestly, as long as the kids are happy and they feel like they're moving, if they are upset or feel like they, hey, I can't keep up on this, or hey, you know what, I'm afraid of this event, or I'm afraid of that event, I think that's something that you can address. But at the same time, I think honestly, if they're happy with something and the coach hasn't reached out to you, say, hey, this is a real problem, I think they're just kind of going along, making progress that is appropriate for that group and appropriate for that age. So, so again, I think that, like I said, if you notice something, and I'll talk about it a little bit later when I talk about the kind of watching swimming and things like that, it is one of those things that everybody learns different things at different rates and different paces. So I don't want people to feel like you have to do a private lesson if you want to learn how to swim and you want to learn how to be competitive, because I think we do cover all of those skills in practice. So. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's good to bring as an example the second swimmer in the hiker. Like they are doing once in a half in a year evaluation, which usually it's honestly just a check,
Mhm.
like out of 10, he's doing 7, 9, 10 here skills, and only like one couple sentence.
Mhm.
You better work better on stick handling or something.
Right.
never swum. I have no clue about technique, and I have no clue how he's doing.
Right.
It seems like, I'm looking at the times. That's all my,
Mhm.
what rate is like, oh, you hit the regionals.
Mhm.
Cool. But I don't know if he could do better if he,
Right.
where his stats.
Right. And that is something that we have struggled with as a staff, as far as making sure that trying to give feedback, but also making it meaningful. And so when you have 30 athletes, again, if I spend 20 to 30 minutes on each athlete, that ends up being 15 hours of work to make sure that it's something that everyone will get something out of. And so I think we kind of struggle with that balance, because again, we could do a checklist, but I'm not sure how much information is through a checklist. And I think that that's where it is something that we continue to talk about, how to do feedback. But it is one of the areas that we are getting better at. And I think that's where, again, I think if there are questions, please be proactive. One of the programs that we are developing, and should be online, and part of the reason why we brought Joe in, he's over here filming now. And but we are going to be adding an element of our practices where we will be filming all of the kids underwater. We've purchased some underwater cameras. We have some overwater taping abilities as well. But Joe will be touring around to the different sites and different groups, and filming everyone who's there. And so practice will be going on. He'll move people over to a lane, and then he will film all 4 strokes. And then we will have kind of a library as well that you guys can access of, this is what a perfect stroke looks like, and this is what my stroke looks like. And again, and that's not a bad thing. That's just here's what we're striving for. Here's where you're at, and there will be some comments on these are the things that we think are important as we go through. So you'll get to see kind of underwater, my hand's here or is it out here? And we'll talk about, if you look at, an elite level athlete, their hands are inside their body line, maybe you're swimming out here. And so that'll give you some reference to what we're looking at. But we're going to do that multiple times in a season. But I also don't want to overpromise, because we right now don't have a great idea of how long it's going to take to get through all 350 athletes. And so, but that will be then sent to you and sent to the coaches. So you'll have kind of a video reference of where the kids are. It'll probably be done through a shared server, because obviously we can't send a lot of video a lot of the time. But we are adding that aspect where we will be filming the kids. They will have some visual cues of what their stroke looks like versus what we would like it to look like.
Yeah, my offer was not just because I want to know where he's better.
Mhm.
I actually allow when, for example, he's not strong at fly. And when coach starts work on his technique, he gets so excited about that he doesn't care about any other stroke. And I wanted him to be excited about where he's the worst,
Mhm.
the weakness. But it's just more like pick for me, for maybe other parents who's not
Right.
standing that much.
Mm-hmm.
Where they stand in, what they are. Maybe I can support him emotionally
Right.
or something.
Right. No, again, I get it. I think that just from our side, that's where we're trying to balance. How do we do that 35 times, in a fairly short period of time? And so, but we are, like I said, we are trying to get better at that, and we are trying to develop some way to make sure we have kind of an open conversation with all the parents about where the athletes are and what they're doing.
Chris? Something that we have talked about that will speak to this a little bit is we are going to, at some point in the next 12 months, start publishing what each stroke is supposed to look like in a video series for each stroke. So, you would have a reference at home, or your swimmer would have a reference at home as to what things are supposed to look like. And then also in addition to the videos that they are receiving after Joe takes them and comments on them and things, you've got a basis for comparison. But we are planning to utilize our YouTube channel a lot more effectively and house a lot of that stuff. And more than just what our weekly Tuesday tip is, there's going to be more of an educational series on everything swimming, really.
Any other questions? Okay.